guys, happy Tuesday. So I just want to let you guys know that I may pause a lot through this. I don't know if I can get through this video without crying, and I mean that honestly. Pulling up the pictures, I'm already starting. Pulling up the pictures had me in tears, and it still does. This story is so heart-wrenching, but there's a reason why I'm bringing it to you guys. For Making a Murder People, this story is right out of Manitowoc. And for me personally, I'm telling you, I can't do this. This is hard with a kid. So for me personally, a lot of it comes down to the boy was a twin. I have twins. It happened in Manitowoc. Making a Murder happened in Manitowoc. We know how fucked up Manitowoc police are. Wait till you see how fucked up Manitowoc DHS is. Department of Human Services, CPS, Child Protective Services. Depends what state you live in is what you call it. But I'm honestly having a really hard time with it. And I didn't think I would have that hard of a time, but I really am. So if you see me pause, I didn't forget my sentence. I'm just trying not to have the tears flow. And one is about to go. So, bear with me. I'm telling you guys to be crying by the end of this video. Or you may be crying because I'm crying. And thankfully, I never had a child die. I don't know why this is hitting me so hard. But it is. I have this thing when it comes to kids. Obviously, because I have some. But I have this thing when it comes to doing stories on kids. I try to stay away from them. Because it's heart-wrenching to me. And this one fits like everything that tugs on my heart. So for those of you that think I'm like a total bitch, I think now you see the lighter side of me and the nicer side of me, because I'm really not a total bitch. I really have a heart. So the story, like I said, is out of Manitowoc. Before anything, one of the things I want to bring up, and this is related to anyone following Making a Murderer. You know, one of the things that we always said about Carmen Bootwell's death was having to do with that, you know, why did a coroner so far away do her autopsy? In this kid, what it says is that he was from Manitowoc, he lived in Manitowoc, but a Milwaukee ME is the one that was his coroner. So that like kind of really struck out at me, because I'm like, okay, maybe that's just how it's done there. You know, like it's not a big thing, or it's not some big secret that's why they do it. This case is brand new. They just went to court today. And this is not an old case. I mean, the kid died last year, but this is not an old case. They just got a bail today, or bail set today. So it'll be great to follow it right from the beginning, if I can handle getting through it without hysterical crying. But this is going to be another case that I'm following heavily, mainly because of everything I just said. Plus, it's brand new. Like, we caught it at the beginning, so we can really watch it unfold. So let me get right to the story. So the kid's name is Ethan. I'm sure I'm going to fuck up the name, but Hausschultz. And I don't know how news reporters always get names right. Hausschultz. He was 7 years old. He should not have died. He died because his guardians beat him, and his guardians appointed the 15-year-old son to also beat him. Now, you're probably wondering, like, why would they beat this kid? Was it just standard child abuse? Was it more? Like, what was it? What makes this story so incredibly insane and just mind-blowing is that the 7-year-old kid was killed and being punished for failing to memorize Bible verses. Yeah, you heard me, Bible verses. So he was a 7-year-old boy. He was a twin in Wisconsin who was tortured and killed while being punished for failing to memorize 13 Bible verses. Now, what I don't understand is you have such religious beliefs that you're punishing people for not knowing Bible verses or for not memorizing Bible verses. But then you beat and hurt that child. So taking a standpoint of, like, I believe in God, God wouldn't want you to beat your child to death. God also wouldn't want you to appoint your 15-year-old to beat your child to death, or the kid that you're watching to death. Maybe this is part of the reason. I shouldn't say maybe. I'm being nice here. This is the reason that I don't believe in religion, because of stories like this, and it's all over the place. And I'm not telling anybody not to believe in religion, to each their own. But for me personally, it's shit like this, to me, that ruins religion. But, it reminds me of, like, someone whose kid is crying, so you hit them. What the fuck do you think hitting a child is going to do? Make them cry harder? No, let me think. If I hit them, they might stop. Fuck no, they're not going to stop. They're going to cry harder. This is like the same thing. You don't kill somebody because they don't understand, they didn't memorize God's word. Because God certainly wouldn't want you to kill them. So, I mean, I could go on for hours on that part. But he was living in Manitowoc. He was killed after being hit. He was kicked. He was poked. He was repeatedly shoved to the ground in snow while being forced to carry around a 44-pound log in the snow as punishment for failing to memorize Bible verses. Now, a 15-year-old boy and 2 adults have been charged in connection with the murder of 7-year-old Ethan Haschultz in Manitowoc County, Manitowoc. County Sheriff Dan Hartwig said in a news release, the boy was forced to carry a 44-pound log and was buried in the snow all before he died. This kid is 7. Pause time. Damien Haschultz, 15, is charged with first-degree reckless homicide and 6 other charges. Although age 15 in Wisconsin, juveniles charged with certain homicide counts are handled in adult court. So he will be tried in adult court. Well, if Brendan could be, he certainly can be. Damien's father, Timothy Haschultz, 48, is charged with felony murder and 5 other charges. Tina McKeever Haschultz, 35, is charged with failing to prevent bodily harm and intentionally contributing to the delinquency of a child. Manitowoc County had released a press release that said Ethan had been performing punishment ordered by Timothy, which required Ethan to carry a heavy wooden log weighing approximately 2/3 of his body weight while being monitored by Tim's 15-year-old son over the course of 1.5 hours. The 15-year-old hit, kicked, struck, and poked Ethan numerous times. He repeatedly shoved Ethan to the ground and rolled the heavy log over his chest. This is a fucking 7-year-old. He stood on his body and head while Ethan was face down in a puddle. He ultimately buried Ethan completely within the snow. Timothy and Tina eventually transported Ethan to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Aren't they fucking nice? According to reports, Timothy's 15-year-old son explained to authorities that 7-year-old Ethan was being punished for not knowing 13 Bible verses to Timothy's satisfaction, the report says. Punishment was 1 week of carrying wood for 2 hours per day. Timothy picked out the logs, but Damien had to supervise the punishment for the younger children. It's absolutely mind-blowing that in 2018, this shit still goes on. It's people like this that deserve to be dead. It's people like this that should be dead. I can see this happening in 1965, not in 2018. Like, never in 2018, ever. It's sickening, absolutely sickening. Now, normally, when they did it, the siblings told investigators that Timothy frequently punished them by making them walk laps around the yard, carrying heavy logs, which he picked out. Children are allowed to put down the log and take a 5-second rest after each lap. The siblings said that week that they were required to carry wood every day for 2 hours a day if they didn't know their Bible verses. How is this religious? According to Milwaukee County medical investigators, Ethan's death was hypothermia and other blunt force injuries to the head, chest, and abdomen. Gee, you think his 15-year-old brother did it? The hash letters are due in Manitowoc County Court for a bail hearing on Monday morning, which we'll get to that after. Bottom line is, 7-year-old Ethan was killed after being hit, kicked, poked, and repeatedly shoved to the ground while being forced to carry around a 44-pound log in snow as punishment for failing to memorize Bible verses. I just can't. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't understand the mentality of it at all. And I'm sure there'll be someone out there that'll say he probably deserved it, or, you know, he's a victim, so someone will bash him. I'm waiting for that. Or he must have pushed his parents or brother to do this for him. And you guys all know what I'm talking about. I don't need to repeat it. And so today, February 4th, they got bail. Or they got bail set. I don't know if they actually made it. But the 15-year-old was charged with first-degree reckless homicide in the death of Ethan. Had cash bail set at $150,000 this morning. The Herald Times reporter says bail for Timothy was set at $100,000 and for Tina was $75,000. Now that's really interesting though, because the 15-year-old is really the one that murdered him, which is like a whole new subject in itself. So let me just say, tonight I'm doing the overall of everything. But if you want to pick apart things in a case, this is a great case to do it. Another video I'm going to do tomorrow or Wednesday is, why would the 15-year-old who's a minor be charged more than the father? Because the father is the one that ordered it. A 15-year-old is a minor. And a 15-year-old is not like he probably thought he was going to get beat or something. Like, there's so many different things in this case that I caught over the last 2 days that is like a whole nother discussion and makes it even that much more interesting. And the mom, she just got $75,000. She's just an easy bystander. Ugh. The complaint says that Ethan died last April after being made to carry a 45-pound log. And I know I keep repeating it. Some of them from different news stories. The cause of death was ruled to be hypothermia and blunt force trauma. So even at this point, you say to yourself, so how did the kid end up dead? Why didn't somebody stop it? Why wasn't CPS called? Did the kid not go to school? Did the kid not have bruises? Well, sadly enough, it's even more disgusting what happened with CPS. Again, Child Protective Services, or I may say both, DHS, CPS, DHS, Human Services, same thing. So now, of course, CPS has this, report that this kid's dead. But going back, this report goes back so far that it's so sad and so scary. And another topic is going to be, is CPS responsible? And the reason I say that is after you hear how many reports have been called on them, and his natural mother, the people he was staying with was his appointed guardians. They weren't his natural mom. But I can't even believe how many times CPS failed him. Failed the whole family, not just him. Now, mind you, this is a twin. He's got a twin brother. Twins have a bond that is unlike anything else you could ever experience. And I know it because I have them. And anyone that has twins or is a twin knows what I'm talking about. When a twin... Here we go. I told you I'm really a big wuss. When a twin dies, there's nothing. There's nothing that compares because that's your other half. And it's a bond that nobody will ever know unless you're a twin. I mean, as a parent, I can see it, and I saw it when they were young, but as I can empathize, but I don't know what it's like. I think I know what it's like, but you know, unless you're a twin, you don't know that bond. And I just couldn't even imagine. So the report starts, I'm going to start at the bottom and go up. And you can also see it. I did take pictures of it. So on July 9th, 2007, the agency screened out a CPS report. Screened out means they were called out to the house. It says the agency collaborated with law enforcement and medical personnel to complete the assessment. The initial assessment completed by the agency found a preponderance of evidence to substantiate maltreatment of neglect to the deceased child and his 7-year-old twin brother, 8-year-old sister, 11-year-old cousin, and 14-year-old cousin by the deceased child's relative guardians. The agency also found a preponderance of evidence to substantiate the maltreatment of physical abuse to the deceased child by an unknown male treater. The deceased child's 2 biological siblings and 2 cousins were deemed unsafe, taken into temporary physical custody, and placed in and out of home care. Children in need of protective services petitions were filed, and the case remained open to provide ongoing case management services. On January 6th of 2008, the agency screened out another services report. On January 24th of 2008, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging sexual abuse to the deceased child's now 11-year-old sister by the mother. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of sexual abuse was unsubstantiated. The case was closed upon completion of the initial assessment. On May 22nd of 2009, the agency screened out a CPS report. So a year later. On October 14th of 2009, CPS was called again. On October 15th of 2009, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging unborn child abuse. I don't know what unborn child abuse is. To the deceased child's now 8-year-old sister by the mother, and alleging neglect to the deceased child's now 11-year-old sister by the mother and her boyfriend. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegations of unborn child abuse and neglect were unsubstantiated. So now we have more sexual abuse unsubstantiated. I would think by the second or third time there might be a pattern. On May 26th, 2010, CPS was screened out again. On July 13th of 2010, agency screened in a CPS report alleging to the deceased child's now 8-year-old sister and now 11-year-old sister by the mother and father. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was unsubstantiated. The case was closed upon completion of the initial assessment. Now, just in case you don't know what unsubstantiated means, I'm sure everyone does, but sometimes people forget. It just means that there was no case. They said that it wasn't true. So all these reports, how many are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're at 8 of them already. And same reports, child abuse, neglect, and CPS, Manitowoc CPS does nothing. So now we'll go to January 20th of 2012. Agency screened in a CPS report alleging physical abuse to Ethan's twin brother by an unknown maltreater. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of physical abuse was unsubstantiated. Case was closed. February 20th, again, agency screened out a CPS report. On June 22nd of 2012, 6 months later, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging neglect to the now deceased 7-year-old child and his now 7-year-old twin brother and 11-year-old sister by the mother. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was unsubstantiated. How many fucking times does somebody need to call? Oh. On October 26, 2013, the agency screened a CPS report alleging physical abuse to Ethan and his 7-year-old twin brother by the mother's boyfriend. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of physical abuse was finally substantiated. The children were deemed unsafe. A consent decree was established, and the children remained in the home. On April 8th, 2014, the agency screened out a CPS report. On June 11th of 2014, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging neglect to the now 7-year-old deceased Ethan by his now 7-year-old twin brother and 8 and 11-year-old sisters by the mother. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was substantiated. The children were deemed unsafe and taken into temporary physical custody. It's about fucking time. On September 16th of 2015, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging neglect to the now deceased 7-year-old child and his brother and the sisters. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was unsubstantiated. The case was closed upon completion of the initial assessment. On December 30th of 2015, the agency screened out a CPS report. On February 1st, 2016, the agency screened a CPS report alleging neglect to all 4 kids by the father. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was substantiated. On March 3rd, 2016, the agency screened in CPS alleging neglect to the now deceased all 4 kids. An assessment was completed by the agency. The allegation of neglect was substantiated. The children were deemed unsafe, taken into temporary physical custody, and placed with relatives. On October 26th of 2016, the agency screened out a CPS report. On October 2nd of 2006, I don't know how we jumped back, the agency screened a CPS alleging physical abuse to the deceased children by the great uncle. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of physical abuse was unsubstantiated. Case was closed. On October 26th of 2013, agency screened in a CPS report alleging physical abuse to all 4 kids. To the brothers. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation was substantiated. The children were deemed unsafe. A consent decree was established, and the children remained in the home. Guess they weren't that unsafe. On June 11th of 2014, all 4 kids, assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was substantiated. So it took them a year, like 7 months, to finally take these kids. On September 16th of 2005, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging all 4 kids. Assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was unsubstantiated. Case was closed upon completion of the initial assessment. And I want you to know, I'm not backtracking. These are exactly how they are in order. On February 1st, 2016, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging neglect to all 4 kids by the father. An assessment was completed by the agency, and the allegation of neglect was substantiated, but they remained in the home. It's mind-blowing to me. The following history is related to, because I started at the bottom, the following is related to the now deceased child's biological mother. On March 3rd, 2016, the agency screened in a CPS report alleging neglect to the now deceased children and all of them. An assessment was completed by the agency. The allegation of neglect was substantiated. They were placed with relatives. Doesn't seem like relatives were any better. At the time of this incident, the 7-year-old Ethan was with legal guardians, his twin brother, sisters, and 14-year-old cousin. An 11-year-old sister resides with another relative. The now deceased child's biological mother and father did not have regular visitation. This is where I get upset again. This kid never had a chance. And if you look at him, he seemed like such a happy child, and he just never had a chance in life. And I don't get how parents do that. I told you guys I was going to cry. So this is probably going to be the hardest case I ever worked on. But it might also be one of the most meaningful. And I can't believe I'm crying. I should redo this video. But then I'm just going to have to cry again, and I don't want to do that. So you guys just have to deal with me crying. I think this kid deserves justice. And the fact that he never had a chance to begin with, in my opinion, makes it that much more of a case that I want to see him get justice. And I'm going to stop crying. I'm such a fucking dork. Maybe this is why I was never a news reporter, because I cry on hard stories. So I can never be a coroner. Yeah, making jokes. Where's Pink when I need her? So this story, like, there's so much to it. And there's so many different angles to take. And again, in my opinion, if there's a story that I want to analyze, this is it. I really, something in me is telling me fight for this kid. Get him justice, help him get justice. Help him, be free, because he never had a chance. So hopefully you guys will enjoy this case with me. Hopefully you guys will cry with me on this case. But it really means a lot to me for all the reasons I said. So before I go into a complete ball, I'm going to go ahead and stop this video now. I love you guys. And I'm going to name this part 1 because there's so many different aspects to it. I also like it because nobody else is covering it. And I like the fact that nobody else is covering it. And it is so brand spanking new. And of course, it's not a Manitowoc, but how CPS failed them. I want answers. I want to know how CPS can fail that bad. If they're deemed unsafe, then why are you leaving them in the home? And people wonder what's wrong with our system. So, but that's a whole nother 7 videos away. So, or 7 videos in total. So I just want to thank you guys for enjoying. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope it didn't make too many people cry. So that's it. All right, I have to go to bed because I have to be up for work. So I just want to tell you guys, be you, be real, be awesome, always. And when you think about, when you go in at night and you kiss your kids goodnight. Mine, I don't really kiss goodnight anymore because they get mad at me. Like, Mom, get out. But when you go inside and you kiss your babies goodnight, just think how lucky you are. And just think how lucky they are that they're safe and they're loved. And even if they're little monsters, because Lord knows mine was, even if they're little monsters, just love them, because there's so many kids that will never get that chance. So many kids that don't even know what love is. So, and that's heartbreaking to me. So, if I could adopt his twin brother and sisters, I absolutely would. So, that's how much this story has touched me. So, that's it. All right? I will see you guys on Wednesday. And did my Facebook Live tonight, and it went well. A lot of people didn't come, but it was for a first one. It wasn't bad. So, but like I said, this will be part 1. There'll probably be 30 parts of this thing because there's so much stuff to analyze on where this kid went wrong. All right, so I'll see you guys on Wednesday. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope it didn't make anyone cry too much. Peace out. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to check out my other videos. And I will see you guys on Wednesday.